There's a cover of issue #1 with Damian on there. Kind of funny. Hard boots, stretch, OP. A lot of people probably don't realize that they did all kinds of relief cuts in their boots and different things like that so they could tweak in them and do some insane stale fishes and tail fishes and cross rockets and lean Draculas, you know, tricks du jour back in the day.
Damian was a skater too, and obviously he had the whole correctional boot thing going, like the weird correctional shoes, the Damian's hard boot thing, and he was like one of 4 dudes that wore hard boots, and that, you know, he claimed it so hard, but he was just like, Damian was bananas.
Nobody rode hard boots but our little crew, and I really don't even know why. I just started riding hard boots and they felt right, but it really made me a more powerful rider. Like, I could really stomp things way more than I could, because I went back and forth. You know, I tried, everybody's trying to get me to ride soft boots, think I'm going to be a better snowboarder, and it just wasn't the case. I'd get back on my hard boots, and I felt like I could ride anything and fly off jumps, you know, twice as big as I could go with soft boots. When I had soft boots on, the board felt like a toy, and when I had hard boots on, it felt like a machine, like it was connected to me. When I leaned over, the board was instantly on an edge, and I could rest on my boots to do half the work, you know, and so I could really get a good power going. But no one ever caught on to that. Koflak was the only company making the snowboard boots. It was just Tom, Jim, myself, Bonnie, and Dana, I think, that were riding hard boots back then. And everybody else was on soft boots, the entire industry. But I'm glad I did. I mean, they were kind of goofy looking, but I could get so much air on those things. I loved them.
He wore hard boots. I mean, that was his thing. He was a hard boot guy. Him and Dana were hard boot guys. But he could tweak his board and tweak his body in ways that no one in hard boots has ever been able to do. You know, they were behind the whole hard boot revolution. Yeah, hard boots, it's the way. We can, you know, look, we can tweak everything. That eventually caught up with him and didn't work out so well as things got a little more technical and more finesse. But back in the days of just big macho, you know, grassers and front sides and, you know, stale fish, melon, backflip, whatever, was all pretty okay.
I think if everybody would have followed suit with us, snowboarding would have, it's hard to tell. I mean, with these guys that are ripping freestyle riders, they might want that flexibility, but I had my boots so cut up in different angles. I knew exactly what I needed to cut out to do certain tricks, you know, and so I'd chop out the whole inside of the boot so I could lean it way in to do Japan airs and cricket cops and all those things. And I mean, I had them cut up so much they almost were soft boots, but there's just nothing like that feeling of the toe and edge response that you had was insane. As soon as you thought it, the board was doing it, you know, it was amazing. And my soft boots, I feel like I'm all wishy-washy swimming. And I've got them, you know, clamped down pretty damn tight, and they're still just not quite a hard boot.
The thing we got from Damian was balls and backflips, pretty much. You know, the dude would just charge everything, and we always tripped out that he could do it on hard boots. You know, that was a big thing for us. It was always kind of mind-blowing. How does he do that? You know, because he would tweak so hard in hard boots, and we never got it. And so, you know, there was always the Damian tweaks, and it was always in our things we talked about. It was like, did you tweak that like Damian, or, you know? And so it was speed, and it was size of airs, and it was, you know, the balls he had to do the things he was doing.
You can't ever front on Damian. There's no way anyone can ever front on that guy. He was the original rock star. He was the guy, dude. Like, there's no one like that. And like his lifestyle and this whole scene, like, you know, he had everything to back it up. He had this penthouse pet for a wife. I don't care if he wore like neon green and orange or whatever his thing was at the beginning, you know, like what he was doing was extraordinary. He was like totally way beyond anyone.
I was a snowboarder when I was with Brandy, but that was, God, I was 19, 20 years old. And I met her at a nightclub down here, and we started going out, and the rest was history. But that lasted for about 5 years. That was a good time. It was perfect for my snowboard career because she was a superstar, and I was a superstar in snowboarding, so we put us together, and it was, you know, it's kind of cool.
You know, Damian was married to Brandy for years, and Brandy was she was Penthouse Pet of the Year, and she for sure got way more press than we got. She was way more attractive and was in bigger magazines than any of us had been in at that point. I do have one great story about Brandy, though. So Brandy was, she told us that she spoke Japanese. She's like, oh, I'm fluent in Japanese. And we all look at Damian, and we're like, okay, fine. So we're on like the bullet train going to Hokkaido or something, and Damian and Brandy had one of the magazines out, and they're sitting there. I think it was me, Tom Burt, Damian, Brandy, and Sione. And this guy comes up to her, and he looks at her, and he starts going, that guy, you know, and he asks her something in Japanese. And she goes, hi, you know, because it was clear he was asking like, oh, is that you on the cover of the magazine? And it's like some nude girly magazine. And she goes, hi. And then he asks another question, and she just answers, hi, which means yes. And at that point, he just reached down and grabbed her boob. And we're all just like, whoa, 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 we jump up, push the guy off, we're like, hey, no, 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 no. And our Japanese guide said, oh, he asked if that was you on the magazine, and you said yes. And then he asked if those were your boobs, and you said yes. And then he asked you if he could touch them, and you said yes. Like, the Japanese is working really good for you, Brandy.
Damian and Brandy were still an item, and so I'm supposed to meet them at the beach. This is down in Huntington, and I see this, this Mexican guy, just kind of looking like this, looking over, and I'm like, man, what's that guy looking at? And I just, whatever, and I walk up, I'm like, hey, what's going on? He's like, hey, I'm just checking out Pocahontas down there. And I look over, and it's Damian and Brandy, and they're both in G-strings. And right then, I just, oh my God, I started laughing, and I didn't let the guy know that I knew them. And I'm like, yeah, check this out. So I started going down there, and next thing you know, I see Damian just sees me and just runs around a rock and changes, puts his trunks on, and Brandy just stays the same, and she's probably topless at the time, and so I go down there, and next thing you know, I'm giving her a big hug, and and Damian comes around, and I slap his hand, and homie on the hills just what the? It starts to come down. I'm all beat it. So that was Pocahontas, and sorry, Damian. Cat's out of the bag now. I held it for all those years. I didn't tell anybody.
I got some really good ones, but they're kind of like X-rated, but.
Farmer and I were riding together. We were filming on the Palisades at Squaw. We're right underneath the chairlift, and everybody in the chairlift's all go, go. There's 100 people watching us, and so this cliff was already pretty big, maybe a 45, 50 footer. Farmer goes first, and he lands and kind of digs this giant hole and bounces out, and pulls it off. And so they're ready for me. I jump, and right when I went off the cliff, I saw that giant divot, and I'm not going to make it anywhere but right in that hole. So I went upside down and backwards down the hill, and everything caved in on top of me. I'm stuck with this arm behind my back, this arm's holding the goggles, and I'm trying to get the snow out of my mouth as all this snow is just covering.
I was laying there, totally compacted, with just my face showing for about 4 minutes, and one half an arm flipping around like this.
And I was in a full panic for 10 seconds, and I'm just wiggling and screaming, and can't do anything, and I can't get this arm free, and the board's all twisted, and then I just compacted, and so it was like cement. So I wasn't able to move at all, and so when I got just my mouth uncovered, I was able to start screaming, help, and they were so far down they couldn't see me, so they're all waiting for me to get myself out, and that's the worst part, because I remember sitting there for about 3 minutes before they even started up the hill, because no one knew I was really stuck.
What were you thinking when you couldn't see anything?
That I was gonna die, just waiting to die. And my good buddies, Sean and Dave, came to save my life. First guys on the scene.
Every time I moved, more snow would fill the hole right into where my mouth was, and so the goggles are all crooked. It's pitch dark. I could see a little bit of light from the cliff, and then every time the snow trickled off the cliff, it went right into the hole, right into my mouth. It was just like clockwork. So I just stayed there, watching the snow trickle down this cliff, going, no more snow, I'm gonna die. And I seriously was waiting to die because I couldn't get a good breath, and I was just panting, and I was freaking. And I thought they weren't coming. And 8.5 minutes is a long time to spend suctioned in there like that, I was flipping out. And so finally I felt the snow move, and I see, Farmer's head come out there, big woolly mammoth, big bear head, and he's all, you all right? I'm like, get me out of here, I'm freaking out. He starts digging my mouth away, and then he got my hands and got me out. And I really do owe him. He's pretty much saved my life there, because I was a snow chunk away from suffocating. And so that made me exhausted as all hell, but we did end up riding the rest of the day, and then every freaking night I had that nightmare, just waking up going, oh, fuck, I'm not buried. and it was a drag, but it was cool for the video. It was good drama. So it was about 7 or 8 good years of just really power riding, and then 5 or 7 years of just trickling and doing it because I could still get paid to do it.
Damian blew out his knee a couple times, and he had it rebuilt one time, and then he blew it out again, and he didn't have it fixed again. And after that, he started partying a lot.
I moved into this big-ass house on the beach, and it was literally right across the street from the beach, so just up a few streets. And started throwing house parties because we had so many friends in the industry, and it with snowboarding and motocross and surfing all being down here in the same area. And the house parties were always a blast. And then I had this idea to throw the Pimp and Hoe party. This was probably about 91, I think was the first Pimp and Hoe, 92. And everybody dressed up like pimps and hoes. And back then we didn't have a clue what that even meant. You know, it was so funny. All the girls we knew were strippers from the local strip clubs. And so to have a Pimp and Hoe party just fit right in. You know, we all had these ridiculous outfits and the big hats and the feathers and all that shit. And then the girls dressed like total hoes. And it was so much fun. You bet. Welcome to Huntington Beach.
Back at the house, I mean, he had crazy parties every week, you know, and ran till 2, 4 in the morning, and you know, just a lot of crazy stuff going on. And like I say, I was kind of worried for him, going, what's he gonna do? He's kind of, you know, spending his money and not making money and just partying and whatnot. And little did I know that he was gonna turn that into his career. And you know, he's doing really well, you know, throwing parties, you know, and doing the whole monster stage thing that he does. And you know, he's a super creative guy, and he's always been a really great guy.
This is the front porch that got so much action. We used to have our 4th of July parties, everybody hanging out here, partying all over. This was the hood, and then right there is the beach, 100 yards away. Can't complain. When we first moved into this house, the first party I ever had, I walked outside and Dana was riding the oil rig going We had all kinds. You'll see later like the giant human catapult we built in the backyard here. And my buddy got launched at the beach on. Dana's got it in one of his videos, and the guy flies about 15 feet up and then cracks his head on the back of the catapult.
It was a Halloween party at Damian's, and we, I mean, everyone was there. We were raging. The ladies who were strippers ended up showing up a lot more. Like more the LA crowd all of a sudden showed up, you know, for Damian's parties. Next thing you know, this girl's making out and windows being broken. It was out of hand, you know, and we couldn't have enough of it. And we were just all dressed up in some stupid costume, and that was, I think, the first, you know, in my opinion, the first club, you know, rubber.
I knew that night, when that party was over, we knew we were onto something huge because everybody had the time of their lives.
I know Damian used to do that club rubber thing that was like a really big money maker for him for a while, and probably just rakes cash because people, it's like legendary at this point. So he's got a good thing going. He's still marketing himself as being a weirdo. It's awesome. I like it.
The things that used to go down in my house were phenomenal, and at Rubber, the ecstasy was huge. Everybody was on drugs. And techno music had just come in. So you go to that club and it was almost like this, you know, great hedonism orgy. It was just nuts, you know. And you open a door to one of the VIP rooms and people were in there having sex. And you're like, oh shit, sorry, and you close the door and go party somewhere else. And it was happening every single night. And the cops didn't catch on for literally 4 or 5 years. People were walking around with hats that say X-Man on it, you know, because that's the dealer. The Huntington Beach scene had a great run for about 6 or 8 years there. Were just phenomenal. John Huntington I met through nightclubs down here because I was doing all these house parties. He was also doing nightclub production stuff. We started going to Las Vegas, started doing clubs out there. And from the clubs out there, we went into arenas, and John was like the booking agent. He would go into these massive casinos and we wanted to throw a Pimp and Hoe party at a casino at like the Mandalay Bay. Somehow he talked him into it. Tommy Lee was our guest host. Mini-Me was one of our hosts. You know, made a fortune. It was like one of those movies with the drug lords laying on the bed playing the money and shit. It was just classic. And then you know, you got 10,000 people on the dance floor and all these huge DJs, and everybody dressed like pimps and hoes. Tons of fun. It really fell into place. I mean, from snowboarding to doing house parties to doing nightclubs to doing production for other people's huge parties now. And it's just really, I've lived a pretty charmed life. I've been really lucky.
Thank you, Damian.